get started. Again, welcome everyone to the Bias Awareness and Belonging, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the Workplace. We have 4 amazing panelists. And before we jump into that, first of all, my name is Nigel Taylor, currently a PhD student here at University of Kentucky. And before I have them introduce themselves, at the end, we're gonna have a survey that everybody, if you can, please fill out. That's one way to just take attendance to see who came here. That way we can give credit for all your classes and whatnot. So feel free to fill it out, send any feedback. But today we have 4 amazing panelists. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'll go first. So, hi, everybody. My name is Camille Wright. I graduated from UK last May 2022. And then right after graduating, I moved to Los Angeles, California, where I now work at RPA, which is an advertising industry, doing associate community manager work for their Honda client.
Hello. Hi, my name is Neha. I am a overnight producer. I'm a news producer up in Dayton at WDTN in Ohio, Dayton, Ohio. And yeah, I have a show from 7 to 9 a.m. every weekday.
Hi, I'm Jacob Lewis. I graduated in May 2021. And now I'm based out of New York, where I work as a PR associate for a cinema advertising company. So.
Hi, I'm Fadyia Lowe. I work for the University of Kentucky. I am an associate director for the student wellness program, and we are a kind of a newer unit. We've kind of shifted some different areas from across campus that were under the UK healthcare. So we merged all of our wellness to be able to serve students better. I graduated from the College of Communication so long ago. Like 2004 with my degree in corporate communication. And then I went ahead and got my master's in health promotion from the university. Have been employed with UK since 2006 full-time. I have my roots are health education and obviously communication and marketing. I've pretty much created all of our health education and wellness programming from the bottom up for campus. So I'm still here. They can't get rid of me. There's that.
That's amazing. And as you guys can see, like we have great panelists from like a range of different experiences, all UK graduates, just like all of you will be at some point. So just keep in mind when you guys go out and do amazing things like these people to always pour back into the future. So again, since we're talking a lot about mainly diversity, equity, inclusion, I think one way to really like just start this conversation and base it is really just figuring out a definition of how you guys personally define diversity, equity, inclusion, especially in the workplace. So what is your definition of DEI in the workplace?
I'll go first. So I'll kind of define, at least like to me in a workplace, what I think it should look like. So DEI in the workplace, it looks like having a lot of diverse people, you know, not just necessarily skin color, but disabilities, sexual orientation, and it's setting up your workplace in such a way where it is inclusive. So ensuring that every voice is heard. If somebody is disabled, you know, tailoring your presentation to make sure if somebody's hard of hearing, you put captions on. If somebody can't see, you have alt text, and like catering everything you make and do for your associates, for outside of the workplace, in a very inclusive way so that everybody can be interacting with you and like feel supported.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Camille just said. And I think a lot of times, especially as an employee, if a place is, you know, diverse and inclusive, you can feel it. Like I know that's, you know, kind of arbitrary, but, you know, it's a feeling and you feel welcome and you feel heard. And I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, not only what the people look like, but also who they are and how they treat you. And I think that's, probably the most important thing about creating a diverse and inclusive workplace.
I agree with both of them, especially when you walk into a workplace and you can feel like the acceptance in a room. A lot of things were changed like after I started working because I didn't feel that initially. So that is definitely something to keep in mind when you get like your first job out of college, because it doesn't feel great, but it's definitely like there. You can't escape it.
I would agree with everyone's comments thus far, but also want to add, working at an institution of higher education, this is very important to us as it's kind of created an opportunity, at least for me, to see where we were and where we've come from. Being a student here, I felt like I was maybe one of a handful of Middle Eastern students. I identify as a Middle Eastern woman who is a first generation college student. And for me, it's about seeing people like me working in the environment. And it's all about, it's easy to say we're diverse, but are we putting people in positions that represent everyone? And I think for an employer like myself, because I hire people, it's the first thing I think about is, where are they coming from? What is their background? What's their story, really? And I feel like I have seen a major shift just from even the content that we can teach regarding like sexual health education, making sure that we're inclusive of all people who, might engage in sexual activity, and what does that look like? So I think that, we've come a long way as an institution, but there's definitely work still to be done.
So with being in the industries that you guys are in, first, when you guys were applying to jobs, was DEI something that you kept in mind? Was it something that you were looking for? Or was your approach more so, let me just get this job and then I'll figure it out? And then my follow-up question to that is, now that you have the job, how do you really navigate DEI within your own workplace?
Great questions. Love these. So when I first started applying to jobs and like doing the interviews, I was very much searching for DE&I in these companies I was looking into, and I would ask those kinds of questions in the interview. So like, for example, I'd be like, well, what did your company do in response to the Black Lives Matter protests? How did you support your Black employees? What are you doing still? What initiatives did you put in place? What are you doing for Black History Month? If I was interviewing a company and they didn't have answers, then it was a wrap. I didn't even keep pursuing it because I don't want to keep working somewhere where you got to be the diversity hire and bring all this change, and the weight of everything DE&I is on your shoulders because you're the only one that cares. So that's how I navigated that, because it was that important to me to ensure that I wasn't going to be, the only Black person in the entire office every single time. And then what was your other question, Nigel?
And then based on that, so now that you have the job, how are you now navigating?
Yeah, so now it's like at RPA, for example, they were able, like I said, to like answer those questions, and I saw the work they were doing. But of course, when I came in, I also saw that there was more things that could be done. So I spoke to leadership directly and said, here are some ideas, here's what I want to do. And they've just really let me like take the reins on different things. And what I love especially is like, I don't feel like I'm being, burdened with the weight of having to like be the entire DE&I person for the entire agency. But it's like, if there's a specific thing that I see they're not really tackling yet, or they don't have a handle on, then I'm like, hey, this is something that I am passionate about and that does interest me. And I have the bandwidth to get something together, something that's going to overall, make the agency a better, more inclusive place so that more people will want to work here. So usually wherever I go, I just create projects and then I do them and create the diversity, equity, inclusion in any way I can where I go.
So I think I might have a different perspective because I got a full-time position at the university such a long time ago. And for me at the time, which was 2004, 2006, when I was applying for full-time positions. And it was a weird time because, we had experienced September 11th and there was all of the stigma towards Arab, formerly Muslim as well. So I was Muslim for a very long time and then I had converted. So I felt like I didn't really have a lot of a leeway for a position, mainly because I was just different. So I didn't feel like that would be a benefit to me going into the application pool. I felt like my name was kind of hard to say. And sometimes I didn't get callbacks because people couldn't say my name. That's just me being straight up and honest. I was fortunate enough that there was a person who took an interest in me based on my experience at the university. That was one of the opportunities that presented itself. Now, I had a couple of other positions that came open at MIT and James Madison University and working in campus recreation. It was a different culture shift when I went to MIT for the interview. I, was very diverse. And for me to see the diversity at that institution, it kind of made me want to go to UK to offer that part of me here and to help kind of bring the university along. And I think that's in the back of my mind always been kind of a goal of mine is to, be open about my background, talk about my background, share about who I am, and to help kind of foster a sense of inclusivity just with my story. So that wasn't originally, why I went into working at the university, but now as an employer who hires people, it's definitely first thing off on my list to go through and question about and to ask and to dig and to make sure that we hire people who have the thoughts that can buy into the DEI of the work of the university.
Yeah, I think my experience, especially when I first started applying for jobs, I think I was a little naive and I just assumed like after 2020 that DEI was everywhere. So when I was looking, that wasn't even something I considered versus now it's one of the first things I ask. And I think that not asking the right questions has led me to some interesting jobs and interesting situations. And I think I've learned a lot from that experience. And now coming into new jobs, I think I realize the value of my own diversity and connecting with the other diverse people there. And yeah, I think really just bringing a sense of warmth is really important and really just connecting with the people that you can and making the best out of situations you may have, ended up in.
I had a very similar experience to Jacob's because I was so naive, especially when I was job shadowing, like my junior year, like end of sophomore year. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to be on camera or if I wanted to be a producer or anything yet. So I was just shadowing with other news stations around the area, like in Cincinnati, Dayton, etc. And I didn't know what I had to look for that or ask for that until there were some instances I ran into. For example, I was like, asking questions about being on air, like with other anchors. And then the general manager pulled me to the side and was like, I'm gonna be real with you. Like our demographic isn't people that like look like you. So like, we don't really want your look like on air. And I was like, oh, interesting. So that was like, okay. And I'm like looking at their team and it is, a lot of white people. And it was very straightforward. I understood what they were saying without them saying too much, but I was just like, so you don't even want this? But that's something I looked at after like all these experiences. That was a Cincinnati station, yes, khaki. So that was really unfortunate because that was a station that I kind of grew up watching too. So I was like, okay. And then when Camille was talking about a diversity hire, I did feel like a diversity hire at my station initially, but I think you just need to take those, like if there's more instances in the future that where you felt like some type of way about it, make it into like an educational conversation with your coworkers instead of like, putting other people down because they don't know any better for the most part, I feel like, because they've been surrounded by not as much people who like look like me or other people of color, for example. So that's what I've been doing in like my almost 2 years here, and we've seen like a lot of change. So yeah.
No, I really appreciate everybody sharing. And I think one thing I really want to highlight is I think especially being diverse individuals, it's challenging, right? Like whether it is having to almost hide parts of our identity or not share or change our name or change certain things in our application in order to get these jobs, or even, you know, being in these positions and feeling that responsibility of having to be the change for these organizations. That can often be a lot. So I have two questions. I'm gonna ask my first one. As far as now that everybody here, you're in this role, how do you deal with that almost kind of like responsibility of being that underrepresented person in this role, and having to essentially be that person that everybody's looking at for those questions? Because I know that can take a toll, that can be a lot, very heavy. And as everybody here who's a game changer, you're creating pathways for other people to come. How do you almost deal with that sense of, I don't know if it's responsibility or maybe it's a challenge or pressure, but how do you guys navigate with that?
Yeah, I'd say at work, the biggest thing you can do, at least in that situation, to protect yourself is establishing boundaries. Because, you know, you can really love doing that kind of work and it can really bring a lot of passion out of you, but it is exhausting to have to always be the forefront of every single conversation at work. And I mean, establishing boundaries can look like a lot of different things. So of course, figure out what that means for you personally and for your workplace. And always just remembering, like, we are all one person. Like, I'm just one person. Obviously, what I say in a meeting, I can't speak for the entire Black community. I am just one singular Black woman. And I've had to have those conversations just like at different jobs before, and that's really, really helped taper down, like, oh my gosh, Camille, like, come help us with this thing. That is a diversity thing. Come help us with this. Come join this meeting. Cause it's like, you know, like really. So that really, really helped. And just establishing like very firm boundary. Like, of course, I want to help. I am so passionate about this, but I can't keep speaking for the entire community. I don't have all the answers, you know? I'm only one person. I'm still also learning along the way. And I've also been trying to just overall figure out, like, in what capacity do I keep wanting to like help on those initiatives too? Because I think for myself, I definitely have a tendency to like want to dive all the way in and like be really involved and be helpful and just supportive. But you keep doing that over and over, and the next thing you know, you're burnt out and you're exhausted. So that's definitely something I'm still actively very much working on, to figure out what is the best bandwidth for me at every workplace I'm at, to make sure that I'm saying the right things for these initiatives they want, supporting how I can, and still being, you know, true to myself.
Love that answer. That was great. Such a great question. So I often find myself being selected to, you know, sit in on a search committee or, you know, conversation. You know, our field, the health promotion field in general, is predominantly white female. So I feel almost a sense of, I guess, like it's my job to kind of vocalize for the people who are different at the table. But I was in a search committee not that long ago, and I looked around the room and I was waiting for somebody other than the two people in the room of color to ask the DEI question to the candidate. And I was like, oh, somebody who's not brown, please ask the question. And it's hard. It's so hard, because it's like, you want to be that advocate, but people don't know what they don't know. And it's like, for me, it's like, I want to bring my people, my friends of privilege and my, all the people that I know to the point where they can ask those questions, because it's not a bad thing. And it's not you need to be of color to ask a DEI question. And I think, or, different religion. I mean, it's hard when you feel like that burden is on you to do it every time, especially when we're in an institution. Yes, our diversity is growing at the University of Kentucky. However, there's still work to be done. So again, I think I try to spend, I'm very open about who I am, my background, again, like I mentioned earlier, and creating an opportunity for people who are, white people or people who are not of color, to just ask those questions and be the ones at the table, talking about it. Like, you can join this group, even though you're not, not a person of color. So there's my 2 cents about that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that's been said, but I guess kind of going back to what Camille said, like boundaries are really key. Like I love a good boundary. Learning to say no was like transformative in my career, especially if you can sort of say it professionally and, kind of explain why. You don't have to be, nasty about it. But I do think that, I sometimes feel a sense of responsibility to help, which is definitely like an internal battle, trying to, per my last email, trying to decide, where is my place, and like, should I help with this and should I not? It's definitely an ongoing, everyday, like decision that I really have to make, especially in PR when things are going externally. So sometimes, it is worth one to take one for the team and make sure they don't accidentally, offend a group of people.
I agree with what everyone has said. I think it's harder for people like in the PR and communications jobs, honestly, than for news, because news is very straightforward. It's just hard news. I think the only thing like at work that could be a part of that is just like within the team itself, within like the locker room talk or whatever. But again, like when you graduate, you're going to be the youngest person at the job that you're going to be at. Like I'm still the youngest person at my job. Like I work with a bunch of older people, and I think I just have like a script to go, like, okay, this is what I'm going to say when they say this. This is my cue. So I've had to repeat myself a lot, but like I don't mind doing that. I don't think I've reached like my breaking point, burnout point yet, because I'm so eager to like correct somebody and like shut something down. So TBD on my breaking point.
No, I love that too, because I think like the reality is for many, especially many students who are watching this, they're going to be the younger people. They're going to be not only the younger, one of the few, and I think that's very hard to navigate, right? And I think, oftentimes when we have these conversations about DEI, we talk about a lot of like program and initiatives that some are in place, some aren't. But the reality is, like, as an individual, we still have to navigate in these industries where we're just not fully represented. So like for you guys, in the way you kind of just in your industry, how do you almost find your voice, right? Because it's very hard for, again, like you're the youngest person in the room. You don't fit the demographic of everybody else. Everybody has their own kind of way of talking or thinking, and yours might be very different than theirs. So like when you're in these industries and you're just now getting in, how do you essentially find your voice in order to be able to not only stand up for yourself as far as DEI, but just stand up for yourself in general in these spaces?
That's a super great question. So I'd say overall, in my experience, I've always been at every single job, every activity, whatever, the youngest person. And I think the fact of the matter is, I know I'm very driven and I'm really hardworking. So I jump into like hot, like leadership roles very quickly in whatever extracurricular, whatever workplace I am in. And of course, that comes with that is people being like, well, you're so young. Like, how are you already a leader? Like, you're younger than me, and like not wanting to take you seriously. And I'd say how I combat that is being very firm, not, mean or anything, because y'all know me, I am a friendly person. I am very nice, but being firm and being like, yeah, I'm young, but I'm here anyways. So maybe you should step it up. Like, it's just like, I am here in this position because I have been working hard and I have proven that I can do it. So if you're saying, well, why is she in this role? She's so young. Work harder. I don't know what to tell you. Get up there, because if I can do it, then I'm sure you can do it with your 50-year-old butt. Like, work harder. If you want it, you got to go get it. So if you're serious about it, you have to be firm in what you want. And people are going to really try and be like, oh, you don't know anything, like you're so young, but you're here anyways. And they're just jealous because they didn't step up to get into the role. So you just have to ignore them and continue being firm. They're going to try to tear you down, but who's the person in the position? Not them. So just remember that.
And I think, actually, can you repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. So my question is, like, with being probably like one of the youngest people within, when you get into your industry or wherever, how are you able to not only find your voice and being able to speak on DEI, but also just kind of find your voice in these organizations? Because again, you might be coming in and a lot of people are a lot older, they have their own way of thinking, and you're the rookie essentially. So like, what does the rookie know, right? So how do you
Yeah.
kind of find your voice in these spaces?
Okay, yeah, I think one of the biggest things is, not being afraid to take up space and really advocate for yourself and what you've done. Like if you've done something good, I think it's okay to, let someone know that you did something good. And, if by chance someone is trying to discredit you, kind of like what Camille said, being firm and being assertive and really, I guess, just not letting people walk all over you. I know in my previous experience, I would sort of try to like shrink myself and not draw attention to myself just because that was so much easier. But I think the harder and thus more rewarding thing is to really, speak up and bring yourself into work, because I think there's a lot of value in that.
No, I'm probably the oldest one here on this panel, but I will say that even as someone who has worked a long time at the institution, and I try really hard to be direct and follow through with my values in every part of my life. And I think that the really cool thing is social media has really evolved, right? There's lots of great opportunities to advocate in a positive way and to use those platforms in a positive way to shape the world. And I think for me, what has been most beneficial is that I've found a way to do that. And it's been almost like it's been a very powerful tool for me, because I feel like it's allowing people to process what you say, and then they can respond. And I know that it's been influential in, triggering thoughts of my own. So I think that that's the one opportunity that's out there that wasn't there when I first started in the workforce. So, and also my number one thing is integrity. If you are leading your life with integrity and you have those values and you're pushing those values, you're going to be able to get wherever you need to go. If you don't sacrifice your integrity, no matter what, you're going to be successful. And it doesn't really matter the age gap, because people will see you for who you are, essentially.
I would definitely agree again with what everybody said, but when I first started, the age gap thing was definitely a culture shock at first. I was just like, they really just aren't taking me serious right now. Like, even though I got this job, but like Camille said, like, you got this job for a reason. Like, there's a reason why they hired you and not the other guy, So you always have to keep that in mind. Like, every job is going to be a little difficult. You're not going to get anything right away, when you start. And everything takes time. Everybody started out somewhere. So just because these dinosaurs at work have been here for like 60 million years doesn't mean that like they didn't have a first day at work or like first year at work, So I think some people tend to like stand out. I like to camouflage a little bit when I start out, read the room, see how people operate, and then try to just kind of fit in, because I don't know, that's just how I operate if you wanted to do that. But I think it just takes a lot of time for some people to like, who are really stubborn to take you serious. And especially when you start being more influential and have ideas that are, they're like, wait, actually, you're right. That's like the best feeling ever, when the youngest person in the room makes a really good point or an idea. And I don't know, I hope you guys all have that feeling someday.
And we kind of touched on this a bit, but I was hoping that you guys could go a little bit more in depth, because I think, like, again, the reality is, like, when you get into these spaces, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. Like, there's a lot of hard days, there's a lot of rough days, and especially when you kind of like add in what's going on outside of the world, whether it's your personal life, what's going on in the world, that sometimes like work can be really challenging. So what are some of the challenges you guys have faced in your workplace and being able to like navigate that?
I'd say probably the biggest challenge, especially if you're working in an industry where you're working with clients, are that sometimes clients are mean, like just full stop. Sometimes for whatever reason, they are just not very friendly. And if you're me, we're like, genuinely, when someone's not friendly, I'm shocked to the core. Like, it's just unbelievable. And just how I've navigated that is really leaning on my team and just telling them, like, this is how I am feeling. This person on the client side, even if they're not trying to be mean, I think they're coming off disrespectful. And just, I also try to see, like, maybe I'm being a little sensitive. So then I ask other people, well, how is everybody else feeling? To just, make sure I'm validated. And then it turns out everyone else is feeling the same way. And then once I find out everyone's feeling the same way, we just, we activate the forces. Because why are we letting somebody be mean to us, So that's how I've been navigating it so far. If I'm feeling upset, go to my trusted, supported coworkers and tell them, this is how I'm feeling. Are you feeling the same? What can we do to kind of turn this around? How can we make this better? How can we go to like our boss or something and like put some action plans in place so that we make sure that the next time, say, the client is mean, we're not accidentally popping off, because then look who's out of a job. So, just trying to navigate all of the emotions, because there's going to be days that, people aren't having a good day. And maybe they'll be mean to you. Maybe they don't even mean it, but still it's going to hurt you. And figuring out, well, who in your office can you trust? Who can you lean on to let it out, express those emotions in a safe way so that you're not popping off on people by accident and then getting in trouble.
I'm sure you guys would know that there are there's lots of things that come up working at UK that can be a problem. I've had several roadblocks to educating students in a way that would be more productive. I can give an example of just like condom distribution. I mean, we do sexual health education on our campus, but we are limited in how we distribute condoms because it's all about like, what will the parents think? And sometimes I do wonder, what would the parents think? These are mainly privileged people who come to this university, the parents are. I am someone who didn't have people supporting me when I came to UK. I was on my own financially. There was no safety net. For me, I don't really necessarily think about the impression that parents get, but that's the reason why they're not available and out more. So we have that perception that, we need to cater to these parents who are paying the tuition for these very privileged, for the most part, children, kids, young adults. So that's a hard thing to swallow because it's an uncomfortable conversation. And I tend to say it out loud a lot. And people kind of want to keep me out of the room sometimes because I say it and I make them feel uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, it's the truth. And I go back to the whole, like, you gotta say it as it is, and there's a way to say truth in a very diplomatic way that's respectful and kind and sincere. And we do it every day in this field. I mean, we're up against all kinds of roadblocks with education and how we can, provide the resources that students need. But the university has kind of a political lens it likes to take. But we all know that that's just the politics of it. So yeah, I have all kinds of things I'd like to do that I can't right now.
I think the biggest challenge for me is more of like an everyday kind of thing. Like as younger people and we're working with people from different generations, we all communicate differently. And I think with hybrid work, the way that we type is just dramatically different. So I think that was really like a learning curve, like, coming to understand that my boss doesn't hate me because she's ending her sentences with periods and, stuff like that. And really just, adjusting and sort of meeting them where they are and not expecting them to know, or just not making any assumptions about anyone you work with, because, I don't really think that's fair to them. And yeah, I really think, it's kind of small, but like it's an everyday like battle. So.
I think something that was very different to me in the real world versus college was like the production part of the newscast. Like it's really chill. You're with your friends in college, you're with your classmates that you know and love. But then in the real world, it's very just high intensity. There's a lot of, screaming because you have a really tight deadline. Okay. There's a lot of scanners going off. It's breaking news. It's just, and you have to have everything perfect. You can't make any mistakes. It's going to be on air. A bunch of people are going to watch. So you can't take anything, to heart when things like that are happening. And that was something I had to learn. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this person hates me because I did that typo on air. And it's like, no, they don't hate you. It's just, you messed up a live newscast and you just move on because it's a new day. Every single day is different in news. You just sleep on it and you forget about it because it's not going to be the same. So I think that's something like when you start out, you just can't think about little things like that. Because after a really stressful day of breaking news, that same person's like going to get breakfast after work, So it's things like that it's not that college didn't prepare me. It's just I didn't experience that just yet.
So we have about 15 minutes left, and I wanted to open the floor to any students who want to ask the panel any questions specifically. If not, I definitely have more questions forever. If you know me, I ask a lot of questions, but I definitely wanted to open up the floor. So feel free to just unmute, or you can ask it in the chat. Cue the Jeopardy theme song. Oh, perfect. You can raise hands. I forgot you could do that. Okay, Zoom. Mariah, feel free to ask away.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? I don't know if okay, perfect. I guess I'm on camera too. In my experiences, like mentorship has really helped me find things like internships and things like that, especially like as a woman of color. And I just am wondering if you guys have had the same experience. Like, have you had a mentor that's really helped you find your job today? And in your career field, are you still like able to find those people?
Girl, yes. Like my whole life is mentors and mentoring and everything for real. I probably got my first mentor like wow, still at UK. And then when I moved here, I found different like ad organizations that had mentorship programs to join and everything, because mentorship is literally so important. And I definitely would not even be in my current role without all of the mentors that I have had. And I hop around. So I have a few mentors. And each and every one though provides me something so different that I keep carrying with me. And I still, chat with everyone regularly, but for sure, I 100% believe without just their guidance, their support emotionally and like mentally, I wouldn't have moved across the country immediately after graduating. I didn't even have a full-time role yet when I moved across the country, but the people in my corner, you know, they had so much faith in me. I was like, I mean, if they believe in me, then of course I gotta believe in me. Like, they're telling me to reach for the stars. I feel like I can do it. So 100%, my mentors are everything to me.
I agree. Please keep in touch with your mentors like throughout college. Say what's up every now and then because they are going to help you. I still talk to them. Like when I first started, I was venting to them. They have so many experiences too that they can share. Like in communications in general, like everybody knows someone, you know, everybody knows somebody. So even if you have like a dramatic, you know, early life crisis and you're like, oh, I don't even want to do this anymore. I want to be somewhere else. They're going to know someone. Like in your professors too. You have favorite professors, keep in touch with them because they will know somebody.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think like the first real mentors I had my time was at my internship at the UK College of Pharmacy, actually. And the two women I worked with were just absolutely incredible and helped me get my first job. So definitely worthwhile to make those connections and really rely on those people that are willing to help you.
I love the whole mentorship concept, and I'm in a place in my life right now where I've been very fortunate to hire a lot of different young professionals. And so it's cool to get to a place where I still am close to my mentor. She's actually a neighbor of mine, which worked out fabulously. But as someone who offers that to other people, it's great for when they, you know, are wanting you to list you on the resume or as a reference, but also just knowing and keeping in touch with them with like their lives, like what's going on in their lives, not just about work, but just like about their families and how they're growing and where they're moving to. And it always circles back, you know, like I just recently had somebody who used to work for me, left, went across the country, is wanting to get closer to family and is now interested in coming to the university and looking for a position. And so she's been very, you know, interested in what's going on here. And it's just great to see that there was a relationship there, even though we had times where it could have been a little bit challenging for us both, that, you know, at the end of the day, you know, she felt like I had her back. And I think that that's the way that I felt with my mentor. So, and that's a great time for me right now to be in that position to help.
Anybody else have any questions? Also, we put the survey in the chat, so make sure you guys take time to fill out that survey. It's a way, again, to take an attendance, and then also you can drop any kind of advice, questions, things that you liked, etc. Let's see.
I have a question. My name's Abby. Earlier you guys were talking about whenever white people should jump into those CIE conversations and kind of join in. And I was just wondering, like, as a white woman, where does it hit that line to where it's getting to be too much and like we're trying to speak for you, or like does it get to a point where we're stepping on your toes and that sort of thing? Because yeah, that's my question.
That's a good question. Hey, Abby. So I would say, and I, of course, can only speak from my experience, I'd say if you're ever unsure of the appropriate thing to like say, or if you should say anything, I really think the best thing you could do is genuinely ask. Because I think everybody personally has like their own threshold for like how they want people to participate in different conversations and everything. So I think that would definitely be the best way, like ask, is it okay if I am participating? How can I best support you? What can I do to make sure that I'm making sure that your voice is heard and that I'm not, you know, dominating the conversation? Because everyone's different, you know, and maybe you're in conversation with one person and they want you to like participate more and they want you to like lead a little bit more, but then other people might not be okay with that. So I'd say, you know, just gauge where everyone is at, because everyone needs something a little different.
I
Yeah,
would definitely, sorry, Jacob.
you can go ahead.
I would definitely rather you ask questions rather than like assume and say something that you didn't mean that may be translated in the wrong way. Definitely always ask questions personally, because I think anyone in a room can tell that that's coming from a good place, you know? So yeah. And then I think when it comes to maybe talking for other people of color or like asking questions like for them, I think it's very cool. Like if you were to like ask a question that typically, you know, is the cue for a person of color to ask. Like, I think that's something that I am looking for, like in a meeting or something, for like people like you to step up and say something. But I think there's also a line between like talking over or for somebody rather than like asking a question about a particular subject for them. Does that make sense? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I really think just, you know, knowing the people around you is really important, and knowing, you know, kind of like what Camille said, what they're comfortable with, what their threshold is. And I know in my experience at UK, something I really appreciated that people would do, rather than just, you know, advocating for me and then I find out after. I think having a conversation with me and seeing how I'm feeling before, you know, taking it to the next level was something that I really appreciated when it happened.
Well, everyone. Oh, sorry.
No, I
you
was
go.
gonna just say I agree with that. I think my only thing I was gonna add is that again, you don't know what you don't know, and often it's just saying you don't know how to ask the question, but this is a concern to you and something that you're passionate about. And we need people like you to do that. So I appreciate your interest.
Well, everyone, thank you guys for attending this amazing panel. A round of applause to our panelists. You guys are amazing. So there is another session at 4 p.m. It's a career panel using communication careers for social change. So if you're here for that one, where Abby is going to be the moderator, and she's absolutely going to like stunt on me because she's an amazing person. Definitely stick around. If you guys want to get in touch to the panelists, definitely reach out to them. Some drop their email. But thank you guys all, and this was a great conversation.